Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How's everybody doing? Excellent. You seen some good sessions today?
Yes.
Brilliant. So I went to Bogdan's session, and I went to Tim Mangan's session earlier, both excellent sessions. I hope some of you went to those sessions as well. So my name's Jim Moyle. I am a principal product manager for Windows Cloud. So that means I design features for Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. You can find me on LinkedIn and X and Blue Sky as well. The reason I'm particularly paying attention to those socials is because I have something else to tell you. I have a flight that leaves from Schiphol Airport at 4:10 this afternoon. So I will not be staying for questions. If you have any questions about my session, this is the place to find me, not after the session. I will be running for the station. So, applications. I'm going to sort of describe some general the general application landscape. We're going to talk about a few sort of like interesting things. Some of you may know, some of you may not know. Let's give ourselves a bit of room to work here. Now, if you go and talk to somebody who's not in IT, then this is how they think that application deployment goes for them, right? And sometimes I think of it this way. I shouldn't, but sometimes I do. But I don't have one device. I have my cloud PC that I use for self-host for testing all the new features. I have that laptop. I have a company desktop in my office. I have my personal computer in my office. I have demo environments in Azure Virtual Desktop. I have demo and test environments in Windows 365. How many machines are we up to now? Like 7? Way too many. I am the problem with carbon emissions, I realize. I'm sorry. So this kind of model, as we know, is not going to do it for anybody. The answer could be remoting an application, because you could then hold it centrally and deliver it to any machine. And we'll talk a bit more about that and the changes we've been making around application remoting. In order to get an application into the machine, we can use not just installation, we can use application virtualization. Some people call it layering, some people call it containers. I don't really care. We're going to call it application virtualization for the time being. So we've got installation, virtualization, and remoting for applications. One of the tricky things is how applications talk to each other. Commonly via add-ins, especially to Office. Add-ins are problematic, especially with Office, because Office has its own specialist virtualization environment that is incompatible with MSIX. Isn't that fun? So be very careful about add-ins, especially for Office. So let's dig into the installation sort of type. Everybody just says, you've got MSI, you've got AppV, you've got MSIX. But actually, MSI, there's a whole world of pain for anybody who manages applications there, because you have many, many different types of installers that will package up your MSI. So Wix, Nullsoft, Burn, and Inno. Some of these are open source, some of them are not. And they all come with their individual foibles for you as an administrator. It's not just that, is it? We've got portable apps as well. I don't like portable apps. A lot of people tend to run portable apps from a network share. Not the best for your security stance, I would say, because your application is outside of your Windows OS file system, and this is problematic. Some people still deploy applications in a zip file. Here you go, self-extracting zip, bloomp. That's not very easy to manage. AppX, the predecessor to MSIX. Plenty of AppX applications around, particularly from the store. And I just mentioned it, MSIX. So you have to know how to distribute all of these different kinds of applications if you're trying to install them. Every single one of these packages has got different silent install parameters. And then every single one of the applications within those packages has got its own silent install parameters. Tim mentioned the other day, people Google for, oh, what's the silent install for this and that application? So let's group all those different types together and install. So where do we get those applications from? So traditionally, people would stick them on an SMB share. Who still does that? I can't see. Nobody. Excellent. Good on you. I'm going to concentrate on the Microsoft first-party stuff here. So let's look at Intune first. Now, I'm not going to go very deep into this, but we have this isn't even all the Windows app types for Intune. Line of business. So if you have self-created MSIX apps, then they should go in your line of business app type. Office is its own app type, obviously, just to make life easy. You've got your traditional Intune win. You've got your enterprise app store if you've paid for the Intune suite. And you've also got the Microsoft Store. Now, the store isn't an Intune app type. What Intune does is it actually calls the store APIs. So what you see in Intune when you go to the store is actually a true representation of the store. It's not an Intune-only thing. All it does is it calls the store. And what happens if you select a store app for deployment via Intune? Do you think Intune deploys the store app? It does not. The store deploys the store app. What if you've disabled the store? Does it still deploy? Yes, it does. And the reason is that if the call comes from Intune to the store on your Windows client, the store ignores the fact you've disabled the store. So it does work, and everything works, and actually the store is used to update a lot of the frameworks that apps need to run as well, even if you've disabled it. So really what you're doing when you're disabling the store is you're disabling user access to the store. The functionality of it still remains in Windows. Winget. I really like Winget. Winget comes with both a command line and, I don't know if you know this, but it comes with a PowerShell module. Hang on, I missed something I was going to tell you about Intune. Let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. OK. So let's talk about applications deployment to AVD and Windows 365. Is Intune a good choice for deployment of applications to AVD and Windows 365? If you have a personal desktop, yes, it is. So Windows 365 Enterprise, and if you have a personal client OS in a host pool in Azure Virtual Desktop, Intune is a great choice for deploying your applications. You can put a server OS in AVD. Intune doesn't support a server OS, so that's out. So you need to find a different way of deploying to server OSs in AVD. And Intune is not particularly good at deploying to a non-persistent environment. in a non-persistent environment, you want every single machine in that pool to be homogeneous, to be exactly the same. What happens if you have user-deployed applications in that case? Everything goes very badly wrong. So at the very least, if you're deploying to non-persistent, then you need to have system-deployed applications. And in fact, that may be too slow for you, particularly on the updates, because the advice that we give is to wait about 24 hours, and then Intune will definitely have sorted everything out for you. But a lot of larger companies, they don't have that 24 hours. Like, maybe a 4-hour maintenance window once a month is what you get. So what people tend to do for a non-persistent environment is use custom images. So you pre-deploy your apps into an image, and then you use that gold image then to stand up your host pools. This works for Windows 365, sort of. It doesn't work for all bits of Windows 365, but it definitely works for all bits of AVD. So Intune, is that good for deploying to AVD and Windows 365? Sort of, only in specific use cases. Otherwise, you're going to need to find a different way of deploying your applications. All right, back to Winget. So if your app is in Winget, this may be a better way, because Winget is definitive. So you can deploy a script, and script can call Winget, and Winget can go and download your applications. If you're using the Winget CLI, it doesn't create a nice object for you. It creates a whole blob of text, which is horrible to use, which is why we have a PowerShell module. So here we can see, find it, Adobe Acrobat, 64-bit. Everything in Windows 365 and AVD is 64-bit. There's no 32-bit. And then you can use export Winget package via their ID. I really like this. What happens is you get two files. One Adobe Reader, and you get a YAML file as well when you do the export. There's some interesting stuff in that YAML file. Particularly interesting is this bit. This will give you the actual silent installation as advised by the manufacturers. Don't ask Copilot or get a random Stack Overflow post from 2 years ago. This will actually be the most up-to-date, accurate silent install for your application. So if you're ever wondering how to get a silent install, export the file from Winget if it's present, and you will get a proper silent install in the YAML file. How am I doing on time? OK, we're moving a little quickly. It's because I'm anxious about my flight. So, Winget. Oh, Winget can also access the store, by the way. So Winget uses exactly the same APIs that Intune uses to look at the store. And so using Winget, you can access all the store applications as well. For some reason, you've got to be a little careful about this. That API does not display versions, because the version of an app in the store depends on the locale and your OS architecture and all kinds of other things. So it's not totally determinate that there is one version of an application in the store, because architecture, locale, et cetera, all depend on the version you get. So the store's a bit awkward in that way. It never shows you a version. So let's look at some of the virtual applications. AppV. So if you were in Tim's session earlier, he explained that AppV is, go back one. AppV is a three-part architecture: the client, the sequencer, and the server. The server part is going away in April 2026. So if you're still using AppV Server, you must find a different way to deploy your applications to AVD and Windows 365, or even physical. A lot of people use AppV to deploy to physical, which is interesting and unexpected. But when you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense, because if you have to have an AppV package for your non-persistent VDI, then why should you use a different deployment method just because it's on physical? Just keep to one package, and you only have to manage one package. It also gives you a lot of advantages in terms of security, compatibility, audit trails, compliance. You can guarantee that your apps are on the correct version. App Attach, which is part of AVD, and we're looking at bringing that to Windows 365 as well. Now, traditionally, App Attach used to be restricted to MSIX only, but in order to help people out with the deprecation of AppV Server and help them move to MSIX, we now support AppV as a delivery package for App Attach. If you can go to MSIX, go to MSIX. If there is a vendor-supplied package for MSIX, get that. Convert it using the Microsoft tools, and when you find out that you may need something a little bit better, you can go talk to Tim Mangan over there and get his tool. So for MSIX, a lot of the things that people complain about, and we'll touch on this a bit later, is because of stuff that they've asked for themselves. So at Microsoft, we didn't say, we're just going to invent this new package and we're going to make up some arbitrary rules. All of the guidelines and rules for MSIX come directly from yourselves, from customer feedback. No conflicts. Stop apps overwriting other app stuff. And when you uninstall it, stop breaking other apps. We want an application packaging format that doesn't cause conflicts, OK? We'll do a lightweight containerization and isolation for you. We want to be certain that we're not subject to man-in-the-middle attacks. So we want an identity for that application, and we want a certificate for that application for our security stance. OK, we'll make sure that we demand a certificate for that application. Actually, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent about certificates here. So this is how I explain things to people who are getting certificates wrong. That may be nobody in this room. You may all be excellent at certificates, and good for you. But maybe you can use this to explain it to people who aren't. So you can get a certificate. It needs to be a code signing certificate. So you can get a code signing certificate from a public certificate authority. That is the equivalent of this in terms of identity. There is a third party that will validate that identity. You can also get a certificate as part of Entra ID or as your traditional domain. That is effectively this. It is a certificate that is valid within your organization but does not work outside of your organization. Both of these are totally fine. I would probably use this if you're doing packaging for your org. Don't spend $500 on a publicly signed certificate if you don't need to. Both of these I like. But what I see people doing a lot is this. This is a self-signed certificate. And I see a lot of blogs, I see a lot of advice. Oh, I need a certificate for my MSIX. Oh, just do a self-signed one. And then you have to distribute the root certificate across every single machine in your organization, and then people do a new one for a new MSIX. This is a horrible way of doing things. Please do not do that. Tangent over about certificates. Updates for MSIX. So it supports differential updates. So you only get the files you changed. Clean uninstall. MSIX guarantees you no WinRot because it virtualizes the file system, virtualizes the registry. If you use an MSIX package, it will not affect your system when you uninstall it. This is good, right? It is compressed by default. Saves you a little bit of bandwidth. You can have multiple versions of a single application present on your system. So that means if you do have an issue with a new version, you can very, very easily roll back to a previous version. Remember, no conflicts, containerized, means you can have multiple versions on your system. The version needs to be in 4 parts: major, minor, patch, build. Apart from, it doesn't really, because build has to be 0. So if you have a version where the build is not 0, then that will not work. So really, it's a version in 3 parts with a useless bit on the end. You can see that. So there, Power Automate Desktop, I have got X number of versions on my machine, and you can see they all end in 0. Why? I have no idea. I have asked people, but they have not given me a good answer. But I'm telling you that it is a necessary thing, so now you know. One of the things that people don't realize as well, now, you can't be in an IT session at a tech conference without mentioning AI. The reason I bring it up is because if you're using AI within your organization responsibly, and you want to give AI access to data within an application, that application needs an identity. Because you need to be able to tell who has access to what data within which application. And without an identity for that application, it doesn't work. So in order to secure your applications for future use with AI, then they need an identity, and the easiest way to get that is to put it into MSIX. Here is a list of objections to MSIX that people often have. These are kind of like the opposite of the advantages. They're the same thing. Because people have asked for all these things, and then they say, hang on a minute, I then can't use my legacy applications, which do naughty things, which I've asked you to prevent, but I want to keep my applications which do naughty things. I'm not going to read through all of those, but they're effectively the inverse of advantages of MSIX. One thing you need to be aware of is underlying frameworks. So app runtimes, etc. Make sure that your app runtimes are there. And if you're in Tim or Bogdan sessions, then you know the advantages that the PSF gives you in creating MSIXs with legacy applications, and you can fix them up to do whatever you want. OK. If you've not seen AppTouch before, I'll give you a quick demo of AppTouch. So this is obviously for AVD. I have a resource group called Delete Me, which means I know it's a temporary stuff. So we can, doesn't have to be a storage account. You can use any file share. But it's easier if you use a storage account. Use SimFS. I'm going to pick the 64-bit. I accidentally picked ARM there. I've taken that option out because there's no ARM VMs in AVD. You can't do that anymore. You can do remote app with it, and you can install it to install. You deliver it to the OS. Pick a group of users that you want to use it, and pick a host pool as well. And that's it. So as long as you've got the MSIX in the disk image format, then you're good to go. It isn't converting the app when you put it in a disk. Effectively, all it does is unzip it and copies it into a disk and sets a few ACLs. If you deliver an MSIX via AppAttach, it is exactly the same as if you delivered an MSIX via install. There's literally no difference between the two. good to be able to target machines and users. So you could say this user can use this app on this machine, but it's a GPU app, so a machine without a GPU, even if that user logs onto it, then the app won't appear for them. And that's it. For AppV, I keep getting asked that. Do you need to put the AppV package inside a disk image? No, you don't. It can be straight AppV. We support user config deployments and machine-based config deployments. And it is exactly the same API, PowerShell, and UI as it will be to deploy an MSIX versus via AppAttach. So if you've got AppV in your environment right now and you want to move to MSX, all you need to do is change the path, and everything else will remain the same, and you will get an app swapped out. Notepad++ delivered via AppV and AppAttach. I got an email like 2 days ago where somebody says, I've got this weird application. I'm going to pick the highlights out of this. So they have an application which is a client database application. If the client version and the backend version is different, they get data corruption. They also have to have many different versions in their environment. 20,000 users, and deployments need to happen within 2 hours. This is all just one customer, and this is their one problem app. Anybody has a problem app that somebody internal wrote years ago? They're probably dead now. So that's quite a few issues. There's a second page. Oh, and it also needs to be in different languages as well. And it doesn't support Entra ID. So this is the kind of problems that people are encountering. And you know that landscape of different application deployment technologies, Intune, I didn't even mention SCCM. That's probably the only time I'll mention SCCM. But you need to pick the right tool for the right application. In terms of picking the right tool, if you can do MSIX, do MSIX. It is by far the best packaging format that Microsoft has. Kernel mode drivers, naughty things. Doesn't support that. Doesn't support changing system. As Tim said earlier, there are quirks with COM objects. Windows 32 Intune Win for, obviously, Intune for these complex installations, as long as you're not super time-bound. AppAttach for dynamic installations for non-persistent environments. And as I say, if you can migrate from AppV to MSX where possible, do so. So we can deploy AppV, MSIX, and AppX as well, but that should go without saying. We also do partner integration with FlexApp, with CloudPager, and with AppVolumes. If you want to talk about AppVolumes, Jeff is right there. He's the PM for AppVolumes. When we did this integration with the third parties, we had a design principle that we came up with. You should never lose functionality by doing the integration between a third party and AppAttach. So everything should still work no matter what version of AppVolumes you're on, no matter what your underlying OS is in AVD. And I think we did a really good job at this, because the integration gives you everything that you like about Azure. So it gives you all the monitoring, all the logging, eventing, automation, and RBAC that you're familiar with in Azure. And you can apply it to the objects from the third parties, from the partners. And from the partner side, They don't have to wait for us to do any changes if they want to release new features. So the way we've architected it means that if Jeff has a cool new app volumes feature, a customer who's done this integration should never have to wait for Microsoft to do something before they can use that feature. And that is the case with the integration we've done. So if you are using AVD and you are using one of these partners' technologies, then do the integration. You don't have to, but I would definitely suggest you do the integration because it will give you a lot of benefits.
And I'm really glad you set that up before we started, because that's worked out to be a really good suggestion.
Jeff just told me I'm right. I'm just going to put the partners' blurbs up there. I'm not going to read them out to you. I'll give you like 30 seconds. Is this still correct, Jeff?
Is this still Microsoft Confidential? I think I got to get you to...
Oh, we need to take the confidential off. Thank you. Yes. This is not classified as Microsoft Confidential. It's very public. Yeah, yeah, it's not even Microsoft. Yeah. So let's talk about remoting. AVD has had remote app from the very start. So if you want to do remote app, AVD has been great for that. But we had a lot of customer feedback from people who were using Windows 365 who said they had a big use case for remoting applications. So we just released a public preview, Windows 365 Cloud Apps. I'll give you a quick demo of that. Oh, actually, I'll talk about it first. So dedicated mode is what I was talking about before. Just use Intune to manage these and deploy apps to them. Shared mode is much more interesting. So frontline shared is for this group of people at the bottom. So if you want a personal, always only you, that's enterprise. Shift workers, frontline dedicated. And then for a true sort of like pooled non-persistent environment where anybody can log on to any machine, then frontline shared. And this frontline shared is the underlying Windows 365 license that you need for cloud apps. So now we're in Intune rather than the Azure portal, because obviously Windows 365 is managed via Intune. AVD is managed via the Azure portal. Frontline shared. Use a Microsoft hosted network. It's not necessary, but you'll have a much nicer time if you do. Take 4 machines. And now we can see that those 4 VMs are provisioning to the frontline shared environment. This is interrogating the start menu of those machines and picking up apps from the start menu. If you've used the start menu integration with AVD and didn't like it very much, I don't blame you. We have improved it massively with this release, and this also goes to AVD as well. So there's some really good changes in that start menu integration for picking up remote apps. And there we have a lovely 1 out of 4 people connected to remote apps. I'm definitely going to catch my plane. I'm very happy because I've gone too quickly. So just for overview, what we've just been through, that's kind of what you're looking at in terms of your options for deploying apps into AVD and Windows 365. Now, because I've gone too quickly, I do have time for questions. Does anybody have any questions about Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, App Attach, apps, partners? Yes, sir.
Regarding App Attach, you use AppDelivery and
Sorry, say that again.
If you want to deliver AppV by AppAttach and MSIX by AppAttach, can you use it in one host pool?
So the question is, if you want to deliver AppV and you want to deliver MSIX via AppAttach, can you mix and match those packages together in one host pool? You absolutely can. You can have an AppV package and an MSIX package both delivered to the same machines or group of machines, however you like. Yeah, you can absolutely mix and match. And at volumes as well. You can have all 5 different types, and you can deliver all 5 at once. I probably wouldn't advise it. It'll cost you a lot in licensing. Do we have any more questions? Yes, sir.
Yes. Is there a limit of the number of AppAttach applications?
Is there a limit on the number of AppAttach applications? Essentially, no. I mean, in reality, there's always limits, but you have to get up to thousands of applications before you start hitting all those limits. And those limitations aren't really AppAttach limitations. They're underlying Azure API limitations and Azure object count limitations that you'll start to run into before you actually get into a performance problem with AppAttach itself. Particularly if you use SimFS as the virtual disk format rather than VHDX. It's about half the resources and about twice as fast as VHDX. You were just like waving your arms about. So the question from Bogdan was that it used to be the case that modification packages were not supported with AppAttach. We fixed that. Dependencies, modification packages, all of that is supported with AppAttach and MSIX, no problem. Come on, somebody give me some more questions. I'm happy about this. I'm gonna make my flight. All right, I'm going to call it early so I can get to the airport. Thank you very much for coming along to this session. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And find me on the socials.